talking about more specifically today. So I'll start by providing a short definition and talk about user dynamics around Graymail, which are a big part of the reason why they are so dreaded. We'll then general options for managing Graymail and the different configuration options in Modus 6. So good. One is about looking at the IT definition of Graymail. I say IT definition because if you were talking to a lawyer about Graymail, he would think you're threatening to reveal state secrets to avoid prosecution. Not exactly what we're talking about here. In our world, Graymail are emails that are solicited, meaning users have asked to receive them at some point in time. Now, they may have forgotten about it, but they definitely did ask for them. The two come from legitimate, reputable sources that really value the relationship with the email recipient. They're actually trying to help. And number three, as a result, they generally provide valuable content that is aligned with users' interests. So if Graymails are solicited, legitimate, and valuable, what exactly is the problem? Well, part of the volume of Graymail in user inboxes have remained pretty constant over the last 5 years, even if emails have gotten increasingly targeted and sophisticated. The problem, as brought by Microsoft research, is that 75% of spam can be Graymail. That is huge. And as a result, this is the category of emails IT professionals simply cannot ignore. So the problem is the relative space that Graymails take up in the inbox. The perception of Graymails change over time. And it looks something like this. The first step is sign up. And that sign up can be desired, meaning users want to learn about new topics and they sign up to a newsletter, or it can be constrained, meaning you'll have access to that white paper, but in order to get that white paper, you need to sign up to a newsletter. In both cases, you've confirmed email and you definitely opted in. Following the content is deemed useful. Users solve the newsletters, they leverage the content they're receiving, and they're generally enjoying receiving the content. However, interest over time, and at some point, those emails become more of an annoyance. Users get how to even subscribe, and there is an unsubscribe button. They're aware of using the button because they know that if this is spam, they will be actually making matters worse by letting the sender know that they actually exist. So, over time, the user perception changes and they consider email spam and they start complaining. Now, the challenge for us and for IT professionals as well is we have users at the end of the spectrum that for that same email will consider it either useful or as spam. So, how do you deal with that? Well, you have three options. And the first one is to block all newsletters. In this, you're considering newsletters as undesirable noise in user inboxes that should be systematically blocked. The upside is increased focus on business emails. However, you see that you are most likely blocking valuable content for at least some of your users, which annoy them quite a bit. Second is to let newsletters from reputable sources through to user inboxes. In this, you're refraining from judging the value of any newsletter and choose to protect users from unreputable sources, but leave it to them to manage emails coming in. Yep, they receive the newsletters they expect in their inbox. On the flip side, it does generate more noise in user inboxes, and managing that noise can eat up quite a bit of time in your day. The third is to let them choose whether or not to receive newsletters. This is the provides them with the most flexibility. They control what they want to see in their inbox. This requires education and can generate more questions for you as the IT professional. But if you have sophisticated users, this may be your best option. You do, however, to be ready to answer questions on how to implement this on the specific product you're using. What do others say? Well, industry standards tend to be to privilege the second option, letting valid sources through. And an example of that is the VB spam certification. It does require anti-spam providers to let newsletters through from reputable sources. From a reputable source that is blocked is considered a false positive, which is not the desired behavior. So practice out of the box is to let valid sources through. So what is 6? Well, a significant change in Modus 6.0 is how Graymail is managed by default. That default is now to let newsletters from reputable sources go through. Change this to privilege lower levels of false positives over what's perceived as overly aggressive blocking. It's all industry standards and certification bodies I just mentioned. So out of the box, Modus 6 will let newsletters from reputable sources through to user inboxes. You have other configuration options allowing you to implement all the 3 behaviors I explained a little bit earlier. Those. Block all newsletters from ending up in user inboxes. What you need to do is enable scanning for newsletters in spam categories. This can be done by going in spam settings, options tab, click the categories button, and select newsletter checkbox. This means all newsletters will be sent directly to quarantine instead of user inboxes. You can still search in their quarantine and release them, but letters will systematically go into quarantine. Now, to provide maximum flexibility to your end users, you can also do that. And to do that, what you need to do is them to control which actions they can do for specific spam categories. Enable spam action privileges for no users. You can see in the web privilege pane, allow user properties, and make it that spam actions are selected for users as illustrated here. And that's the first step. Once you newsletters through by unblocking newsletters in the spam categories. And to do that, you need to access the web quarantine, go to this page, under spam categories. Now, you can see on the screen that if you choose this option, users could also unblock other categories. So you should absolutely remind them that they still must obey your company guidelines and should refrain from unblocking inappropriate content. That's very important. So Modus 6 allows you to implement the 3 broad categories of reactions to Graymail. Blocking it, through, or in level controls. All are possible with Modus 6. You can provide your users in order to better manage Graymail. And they're all under the same theme, which is to reduce the amount of noise in user inboxes by keeping that area specifically for emails to be looked at immediately and move the other emails to be looked at later in other places. The thing users can do is to use the block sender option in Outlook. It's quite efficient if they are annoyed by some newsletters, but are hesitant to click the unsubscribe button as we talked about earlier. If you right-click in Outlook, you'll have that option and you can block receiving emails from a specific sender. Another great folders. Include the newsletters when they come in. That way, you can postpone reading later and still have a good view of the most important emails that come in during the day. That's a whole process, though. So also to automate Graymail is to use rules based on senders, text and subjects, destinations, much more. By combining a good set of folders, users will be able to receive all newsletters they deem valuable while keeping their inbox free of noise and clutter. So, webinar for today. Remember that when dealing with Graymail, like many other subjects, there is no such thing as one size fits all. So take the time to look at your users' needs and select the solution that works best for you and your organization. I hope you enjoyed this quick topic and you feel better equipped to help your users deal with their dreaded Graymails, especially with Modus 6.0.